So we've just gotten the Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 264 spoilers, and this chapter was absolutely insane. We finally see Yuji's domain freaking expansion, and we are literally in the final battle, which is a one-on-one between Yuji and Sukuna. Who would have guessed? Since Sukuna can't use his curse technique or anything complex, and Yuji is just a brawler, this chapter was just straight hands from the two of them, rather than an information dump, and some of these panels were absolutely fire. Anyways, the chapter starts off with Yuji punching the ground to try and make Sukuna unbalanced, so that Sukuna cannot counter Jacob's ladder, and this attack continues to descend upon Sukuna. Sukuna is then just like, screw this, I can tank this, and starts climbing the rocks in order to try and kill Hana while still constantly being hit by maximum output Jacob's ladder. Sukuna says that unlike Jacob's ladder that was applied to Yuji's domain, that this one does not only target Sukuna, and that Yuji and Todo will also be affected if they were to enter inside of Jacob's ladder here. This is why while Sukuna is getting hit by this attack, Yuji and Todo cannot pounce on Sukuna and kind of hit him whilst he is down. This means that Sukuna is planning on trying to climb directly up the pillar of light so that nobody can stop him whilst he is doing that. And that is also why we see Yuji punch the ground rather than try to attack Sukuna directly. Angel tells Hana that it seems like the right time to dip and leave it to the professionals, but it's simply just too late, and the King of Curses has already made his way behind Hana and prepares to attack her from behind. Sukuna states that the output of Jacob's ladder here was definitely not on the same level from the first time that she used it on Sukuna, which, by the way, if this stupid donut did not get manipulated by Sukuna, the whole damn community wouldn't have PTSD from watching our boy Gojo get sliced into two. Sukuna states that before he is ripped apart from Megami, he can reach Angel and end her life. He then calls up and throws a black flash at Hana, but Todo manages to get up there and block the attack to save Hana's life. Todo is literally turned into a human bullet and gets sent flying through buildings along with Hana, but he manages to receive the ultimate praise from the King of Curses himself as Sukuna acknowledges that Todo was truly a Jujutsu sorcerer. Now, I don't know about you, but Todo may have just got his back blown out, but this is a huge W. It's not every day that Sukuna gives out a compliment like this, and we are still waiting for the day where Sukuna stops being a Yuji Itadori hater and finally acknowledges that our boy Yuji has come so far. Anyway, Sukuna notices that Hana and Todo are currently unable to move due to how freaking hard Sukuna just punched them, and he thinks to himself that if they can't move, then there is no point wasting his time with them, and he says that he will finish them off later. Then Yuji immediately appears out of Jacob's ladder, which means he passed directly through it in a similar way to what Sukuna did, and also meaning that he literally tanked the same attack that was ripping apart Sukuna's soul, just showing how Yuji is probably the most relentless and durable modern day sorcerer. Sukuna is surprised to see Yuji chasing after him even while he was being burned due to Jacob's ladder, but then Yuji goes freaking beast mode and gives Sukuna that left right goodnight as he punches Sukuna in the face with his fist almost going through Sukuna's face. That's how strong the punch was. He then grabs Sukuna's legs and smashes him into a building, and my man Yuji's been watching way too much Marvel. My boy thinks he's the Incredible Hulk the way that he's throwing around Sukuna like a literal ragdoll. Yuji tries to use this momentum that he's just built up and dismantles the floor once again to knock Sukuna off balance. But once again, the King of Curses gets another buff or savior from Gege, who is this guy's top glazer, and due to him landing 2 black flashes in the fight previously, his arms were once again regenerated. Now, due to him landing those 2 black flashes, it caused him to regain his reverse curse technique, which we have seen many times from him in this fight before. And I assume that since Sukuna is in the flow state, if he continues to land these black flashes, he will once again be able to use his domain expansion and his curse technique, unless Yuji continues to deal significant damage to the barrier between Sukuna and Megami's soul, which causes Sukuna to lose a large portion of his curse energy due to how the soul and the body are connected. In order for Sukuna to maintain that barrier and not let Megami's soul re-emerge, he has to use a lot of curse energy whenever his barrier is damaged in order to repair it and maintain the state that he's currently in. But it's slightly unfair that this guy literally lands a couple black flashes on some NPCs and he just manages to go back to almost full power. Anyways, back to the chapter, Sukuna grabs a hold of Yuji and lands punches in his face and his body, and then strikes Yuji in the face once again with his knee. Sukuna thinks Yuji's dismantled that targets only the boundary between him and Megami's soul is fatal for him, but it's useless unless Yuji is actually able to land that attack, which is similar to what he said in the last chapter, with all he has to do to win this battle is avoid getting hit by that attack, which to be honest isn't too hard for Sukuna now they are on one-on-one, since Yuji is going to struggle to outmatch Sukuna in terms of power, speed or battle IQ, and he was relying a lot on Todo's powers to be able to get those openings on Sukuna so frequently. But we will see by the end of the chapter how Yuji manages to shift the odds back into his favour. But back to the chapter, Yuji doesn't give up as he gets back up and tries his best to land some dismantles on Sukuna. But Sukuna obviously doesn't let Yuji use that soul dismantle punch and land another big hit on Yuji. But then Yuji decides that he has had enough and it's time to lock in and finally end this ongoing battle. We then see a small flashback to when Gojo was teaching Yuji about domains while fighting Jogo. Gojo says it uses a lot of curse energy to open a domain, but it has many pros that outweighs that heavy curse energy usage. For example, domains give upgrades to the user's stats due to the environment that they are fighting in, similar to what would happen inside of a video game, as well as the fact that any curse technique that is applied in a domain will always hit its opponent, which is obviously perfect for Yuji. And with that said, Yuji unleashes his final attack by opening a domain expansion on Sukuna. Yuji's stocks are literally soaring through the roof at this point, and maybe after this battle is finally over, we can reevaluate Yuji Itadori in a video and see where he ranks among Jujutsu sorcerers after all these crazy buffs that he's just gotten. Anyway, the narrator explains that Yuji has already learned the basics of barrier techniques through body swap training with Kusakabe, which indicates to how Yuji has learned to use the domain expansion among his training and during this battle. Sukuna then looks shocked as he realizes that he is in some unknown station, as well as the fact that he is currently in his Yuji Sukuna form, rather than his previous form inside of Megami, and Yuji approaches him and says, "Let's go Sukuna." And he did this in literally the most casual way possible. Yuji might have to go down as the GOAT after this one, but there are so many unknown questions about Yuji's domain that I'll do a separate video regarding how his domain likely works, as well as why Sukuna has seemingly changed bodies inside of this domain. But there is also no break next week for once, so hopefully we can look forward to another banger chapter next week, and I really think we are in the final stretch of the Sukuna battle, and it will be interesting to see whether Sukuna merges the barrier between Tengen, or whether defeating Sukuna is essentially the end of the series. But the narrator's comment was simply that both of their decisive battle enters an unknown domain. But yeah, that is it for these spoilers. If you did enjoy, please consider subscribing and liking, as it helps out the channel massively. Also, comment your thoughts on the chapter, and with that all said, I'll see you next week for the next set of spoilers. I hope you enjoyed, and goodbye.